Hey guys, welcome back, BDCKR here, and there's been a lot of talk in the comments on our channel about a downgrade glitch, and it's mostly been by iOS users, and we've been responding to individual comments here and there, but it's probably worth talking about it a bit more broadly to address some of the risks and why we recommend against using it.
Okay, so here's the idea. People download a previous version of Injustice. It's a version that lets you do power credit glitches. Basically, the pre-patch version. Actual number, 2.6, 2.8, doesn't matter really as long as it was one that allowed the glitch. However, it's also a hack version, and we know that because it lets you install it while keeping the current version of Injustice as a separate app. So people have been logging into their account on the old version, doing the glitch, logging out, then logging into the current 2.10.1 version. Alright, seems simple, right? So what's the problem? Let's start more generally and work our way more specifically. You have to be careful about trusting a hacked APK or whatever you call it on iOS, right? Not something that we like to do about trusting a complete stranger. And you also need to trust your download source. Again, not something that we like to do. And calling it a glitch is a bit inaccurate. I mean, really, let's be honest here. This is hacking. If you used a hacked account, you'd call that hacking. If you use a hacked app, that's hacking too, right? So you might be hacking to take advantage of an older patched glitch, still hacking.
And I think it's also pretty inefficient hacking too. At that point, it would probably, if you're willing to do all that work for it, if you still think it's glitching, then there's a little more moral ambiguity for you, and that might make it better. But other than that, I think it would just be a lot easier to just hack some other way, probably, at that point.
And you know, if you've been following us for a while, you know that our channel sticks to glitches. And the distinction from hacking matters to us, even if they're both forms of cheating. I mean, to me, the simplest way of explaining it is that glitching is taking advantage of what the game gives you, while hacking, you're sort of forcing things and you're rewriting the code, right? So, listen, we're not going to get all self-righteous about hacking because you've seen us use hacked accounts to demonstrate the upcoming characters that haven't been released yet, but we never take those accounts online. And again, that distinction may not matter to you, but it matters a bit to us. Alright, so that's the general, and moving on to specifics about this particular hack. Just because we don't hack doesn't mean we haven't educated ourselves a bit on how it's done and how it works. So one of the things that's happening, one of the reasons why this is a problem, is that this downgrading hack, people are losing augmentation cards that they've saved, and they're sometimes losing the newer characters too.
So, why is this happening? Well, to understand this, you need to understand how Injustice actually keeps track of your roster. Every character card, like these ones, every type of augmentation card, all the support cards, all the different types of currency that you can see along the bottom, like power credits, alliance credits, challenge credits, they all have specific locations in the code and in your save. There's a point where the numbers are stored to tell them whether you have a character, how many copies you have, whether you have credits and how many you have. All of those things are each in an individual location. And every time something new is introduced, it gets a new location for it to be stored in. So, augmentation cards were introduced in Update 2.6. Before Injustice version 2.6, there weren't any augmentation cards. So there's no location in your save that would show how many you've got. If you sign into a version of Injustice that's before Update 2.6, and you sync with the server, then part of your save, the part where the information on the augmentation cards are supposed to be, is gone. It disappears.
So in theory, as long as you stick with 2.6 or higher, you should be okay. Without completely testing it ourselves, we can't be sure, but there are people who say they've lost augmentation cards while staying 2.6 or later, and I'm not sure how reliable those reports are.
Yeah, and the main issue is, the only way you can figure out things like this are by testing them, because with hacks or glitches, they're not reliable, and they don't produce reliable behaviors, because everybody's doing things a little differently, and a lot of people who are doing it who don't understand 100% of what they're doing, don't understand where the issues actually occur. They just understand that there is an issue.
Right. So, which brings us to the problem with the new character card. So that's the augmentation card problem. There's a new character card problem. Each updated version of Injustice has empty slots that are meant for upcoming characters. Even though they don't correspond to anything, the empty slots are there. It's the reason why some people who hack their accounts saw Injustice 2 Superman and Injustice 2 Aquaman pop up for nothing as soon as they updated from 2.9 to 2.10. Because whoever hacked their accounts were really sloppy, messed around in the wrong area, and here's the key, they didn't bother fixing it. So, alright, let's take a moment to think about that. People are sharing their account credentials with these hackers who literally do not know what they're doing. They change some code, they don't see what they expect, and they don't change it back. They just leave it. Okay. Anyways, yeah, it boggles my mind. So getting back to how this applies to the downgrade glitch, there are only a limited number of empty slots. So each new update adds slots for the new characters, as well as a few more empty slots. So the empty slots give a bit of a margin for safety, a buffer. If you go back, but you go back too far, you go back 2 or more updates, then some of the slots for the latest characters, those slots don't exist. And the empty slots aren't enough to make up for all the extra characters, right? So the same thing can happen. Instead of losing augmentation cards, you lose character cards.
And also, furthermore, there's nothing to say that they're going to keep up this behavior, so in the future, potentially this glitch could be even more dangerous, depending on whether they continue to essentially give these empty slots. Whether they're useful for themselves, we don't know, but if they figure out that it's primarily only useful for people who are hacking, then they probably won't even bother including them in the future.
Right. Alright, so now since each update still has some empty slots, when you use the downgrade glitch and log into a previous version of Injustice, a new character can look like they disappear in the old version, and then reappear when you log in the latest version because the data is saved in one of the empty slots. But if you go back more than 1 or 2 updates, there aren't enough empty slots to hold data for all the new characters, and you're going to lose some. So, we recommend strongly against using this glitch. And I guess we might as well address something else, not related to a specific question, but something that's occurred to us and seems worth mentioning. Lots of people ask for help and troubleshooting in the comments in our videos, usually when something goes wrong with their account. I mean, not usually, obviously, right? Because they don't need help if nothing's going wrong. We don't mind trying to help, but if you're going to ask for help, you need to be upfront about what kind of hacking or glitches that you've done. A good example is people asking for help about disappearing augmentation cards and losing new characters. Yeah, sound familiar, right? If we didn't know about the downgrade hack already, not only would it be hard to troubleshoot, but it would be hard to figure out what was happening. So, for your benefit and ours, if you're going to ask for help with problems, be as clear and as honest as you can about what you've done to your account. You'll get better answers, and we can all learn about potential pitfalls.
Yeah, so the bottom line is, we advise strongly against regressing to an older version of Injustice to take advantage of glitches. Newer versions of Injustice have new locations in the save file where details of new content is stored. If you go back to an older version and log in, that older version may not have the right locations to store that information, which means logging into that version will selectively wipe the new content. Sure, your credit total will remain because there have been credits since the beginning of the game, but you run the risk of losing the newer content. In theory, augmentations came with version 2.6, so anything 2.6 or later should be safe. But there have been reports, like we said, of people losing their augmentations when using a hacked APK of 2.6, and there's always the risk of losing the newest characters when going back. In either case, the danger comes from the older version of not having a location for the specific content, and signing in will dump that part of your progress. So when you go back to the current version, those parts of the save will be gone, so just don't do it.
Yeah, and apologies, I mean, we were sort of debating the visuals on this particular video were not particularly relevant to what we're talking about, but there have been enough questions, and we thought it was still worth sharing this information with you, even if we didn't have anything shiny and exciting to show you while we were doing our talking.
Yeah, now the only question is, do we make the title more on the clickbait side, or do we try to make it boring in hopes that we get as much information as possible on it so people don't come in expecting a new glitch?
Yeah.
But anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Komoda.